Watch the colors lift your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I have a fabulous lady here today. Allison Carmen's here. She's written a great book. You know, this is for ladies and men out there. I'll say it's for all of us because this is something we need to hear. It's A Year Without Men. And this is a 12-point guide to inspire and empower women. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm really excited Allison's here. I'll try to make my information brief so I can bring her on. I want to, first of all, say thanks to all the people who have been supporting me. God bless y'all. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the readings. I'm having a great time doing readings for you guys. If you want a book, go to my website, nancyyearout.com, and just click on book, and you can go to my calendar and pick out your time and date. Listen, all this stuff's been going on in Afghanistan. I did a news with Nancy yesterday. We've been talking about it. I don't know. You guys, it's really a sad situation, but I did pick this up today off of ABC News. This happened at 3:00 a.m. and it is right now, Friday. I'm going to post this tomorrow, but it says U.S. Special Operation vets carry out daring mission to save Afghan allies. And it says with the Taliban growing more violent and adding checkpoints near Kabul's airport, an all-volunteer group of American veterans of the Afghan war launched a final daring mission on Wednesday. This is really inspiring. It's Wednesday night. They dubbed the Pineapple Express to shepherd hundreds of at-risk Afghan elite forces and their families to safety. Members of the group told ABC News. So moving after nightfall in near pitch black darkness and extremely dangerous conditions, the group said it worked unofficially in tandem with the United States military and U.S. Embassy to move people, sometimes one person at a time or in pairs, but rarely more than a small bunch, inside the wire of the U.S. military control side of Hamid Karzai International Airport. The Pineapple Express mission was underway Thursday when the attack occurred in Kabul. Two suicide bombers believed, like we know, to have been ISIS fighters killed at least 13 U.S. service members, 10 Marines, a Navy corpsman, an Army soldier, and another service member, and wounded 15 other service members, according to U.S. officials. You know, I just think that's really cool that we're doing something. My intuition told me this was going to happen, but the cards, I did the cards on this, you guys, and it said there was going to be a good outcome. So that must be it. And I like that. And that's nice. So that's some positive stuff for today. Now, before, Allison, do you have anything to say about this situation going on?
It's very upsetting, and I just have gone to a place where I'm just praying for the safety of the people, the Afghan people, and I just pray that there could be peace and there could be a government somehow that could, take over, that could to be democratic. And maybe I'm dreaming, but I just hope that the people find a way. And it's very upsetting, and I pray for everyone.
Yeah,
and for the families of everyone that was lost.
Yes, and prayers for the family. Absolutely. I mean, it's really a sad situation. So we do send prayers out to the families. So I wanted to mention that today before we get going. Allison's here. She's a business consultant. She's a life coach. She's the author of a published book by Random House. I'm sorry, in 2014. She wrote a self-help book, which was kind of cool. It was called, help me out here. The gift of maybe. I'm like, I had to look at that a second. I'm sorry. I've never had her on before, but I've got both books. I don't know how we ended up with this one. I like this one. This is cool. Maybe we'll go back and do the other one. But she did that book, and she's also been very successful. She's a CFO of the Motherhood Center of New York, an all-female staff mental health clinic providing care to women who are suffering from postpartum depression. Oprah magazine included the concepts of maybe as an example of mind-blowing new definitions for everyday words. and cited it in their new and improved featured Dictionary to Enlightenment. So that's really cool. But she's appeared on many different shows and all of that. But I guess what I'm so excited that she's here is to talk about A Year Without Men and her story and what happened to us. So to you, I say to us because it happened to me too. That was a Freudian slip. Welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Oh, thank you
Allison.
so much for having me. Thank you.
I'm really glad you're here. Tell us your story. I mean, whoa. You were married for 27 years, happily married for 27 years, and you were running a successful one-woman company. And then one day your husband comes into the kitchen and sits down. And so what happened? Yeah.
What's so interesting is that if you had spoken to me on June 29th, 2018, I would have told you the life that you just described. I thought I was in a really happy marriage, 2 wonderful kids, successful business, and life was good. I'd struggled in my life. I've gotten to a place, we overcome certain things, and I had a very beautiful spiritual practice and a lot of friends and family. And then on June 30th, I was eating breakfast and my husband came home from the gym and he turned around and said to me, I want to date other women. He was a little more explicit. And I don't want to be with you anymore. And I remember turning around, looking at him saying, you're joking, right? It was the last thing I ever thought that I would hear in my life. And I actually remember feeling like my heart just like split in that moment. And I fell to the ground, and he just kept describing more and more of, what he wanted to do with his life, who he wanted to be with. And it was just really scorched earth. And it just kind of really separated me inside. And I didn't realize it in that moment. It was the beginning of a new journey. I think when life falls apart, you're only feeling that piece, and you don't realize that as it falls apart, a new beginning is happening. And then literally within a couple of days, my biggest client for 25 years left me. So, and he was a man too. And so like, I was just spinning.
Whoa.
And then a consulting client of mine, which was the Motherhood Center, like a week later asked me to be their CFO. So it was literally within the 2-week period, my life was filled with men and businesses. And then within 2 weeks, the 2 major men in my life were gone, and I was working for an all-woman company, and life was just all women. But what was really interesting is that as the year went by, as I was surrounded more and more by women, I kept having these awakenings. I felt grief, I felt pain, but I started to see all the places in my life that I was hiding, that I was disempowered, that I was engaging in this patriarchal system that I was letting put me down instead of me finding another way to be. So the book is about my journey, but it's also about women in business and how we could step forward and how we can empower ourselves and how we're so much stronger than we even know.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that is a wonderful message. And you have 2 daughters, yes?
Yes, I have 2 daughters, and that's something too, like, watching their pain, watching, what that means, for 2 women who are about to enter the world and have their father leave. And that was also another huge journey. I mean, how do I show up in so much pain with grace and dignity? I think that's, it's funny, I didn't write about grace and dignity in the book, but at the end of the day, that theme of, every day, like getting up and having dignity and having that grace and that humbleness to just show up and do the best that I can. And, my girls just left. One went to law school, one just went to college. So
awesome.
I'm an empty nester 2 days. And,
I love it.
Again, new beginnings. You could feel the pain, but at the same time, we have to remember that life is always offering us something new. And, as life moves forward, we can't stand still. We have to move with it. So
right.
That's
well,
kind of what it is.
Thank you for telling us that. I want to back up a little bit because you went to counseling, and this reminds me of my situation too, because I went to counseling, and of course mine was a little different situation. We all have our own things, but you did go to counseling. Talk about that, because a lot of people say, oh, just go to counseling, it'll be fine. So I want you to tell your experience, because people need to hear this, if it's okay with you.
Well, when no, it's fine. When you go to counseling, both parties have to want to go to counseling.
Right.
And I think for me, I begged him to stay. I just couldn't even imagine. It was like I was facing something I didn't even understand.
You couldn't fathom this whole thing.
Couldn't fathom. It's my family. This was like mother, father, sister, brother, husband. There was nothing more about it. But he didn't really want to be there. And so, for counseling, it's marriage counseling is a beautiful thing. And I actually think couples should go way before there's even a problem. I think it's a beautiful process, but when one person doesn't want to be there, it can't work. And I think that's life too. It's like both parties need to want to move forward in anything, in a business relationship, in a romantic relationship. So I was up against too much. It was literally like there was a wave coming at me, and no matter what I said and what I did, I couldn't control that wave. So
Yeah.
it was very painful, because it was 6 weeks of someone, that was planning on leaving no matter what I said. So it was not an easy process. But
it's not easy.
Highly recommend for people who really want to be honest and do the work and either try to figure it out or at least be honest about how it needs to end.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we come back from commercial break. You guys, I'm here today with Allison Carmen. Her book is A Year Without Men, and this is it. And I'm sure we can pick this up on Amazon. Yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, cool. Hey, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hey, this is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Allison Carmen. We're talking about what A Year Without Men, and of course, you didn't plan this, and you were talking about counseling. I want to say a couple things, and then I would like to continue on, because we're all fearful and about being by ourselves. It's kind of a conditioning. It's kind of a weird thing. And I want to talk about this. And you even say in the book, what is your biggest fear? And at the time, it wasn't, you were just not accepting the situation. Like, you went to counseling with him. He agreed to go, but he didn't really want to go. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he didn't really want to be there. He was done. He was done. And so,
and you just couldn't get to that point where he was done and you weren't, and you were like, you just weren't.
I just kept, I couldn't imagine it being another way. So, this is what I knew. This is what I felt was certain. So I kept going back for counseling, and I kept hitting a wall. And then eventually, after 6 weeks, it just all fell apart. And he actually left on our anniversary. That's when he actually moved out of the house. Yeah, it was, but that's how it went. And again, I once said, some people always say, well, didn't you see it? Didn't you see it coming?
No,
because people always say there are signs. And, the truth is that we all look through life through a specific lens. And I didn't see it because my lens was this man I knew, this relationship, this life. And so I didn't think it was possible. Therefore, my lens never allowed me to even think that was a possibility. And so, when you talk about acceptance, it's like, sometimes what stands between us and a new life is accepting what happens to us. And I think when something like this happens, it's a process. And I remember right when he left, I actually went out to Long Island to see my sister. And the first day I woke up, I remember I kept turning my head to the right and like looking that he wasn't there. And I wasn't trying to punish myself. I was just trying to kind of like adapt to his physically being gone. And I remember as I moved into the shower to kind of get my bearings, I remember there was this Longfellow quote about when it's raining, something like that. When it's raining, we must accept that it's raining.
I wrote this down. I can't control the rain.
I probably have.
I wrote it down. I was like, because you weren't accepting it, and then you were in the shower and you realized you can't control the rain. You can't control it.
We think it's so funny. We think we can control things. Yet when it's raining, we know we can't stop it yet. We think we could stop things that have already happened. And so through my practice of acceptance, it was kind of like the first level that he was physically gone. I mean, there were many levels of grieving. There are many levels of moving forward, but accepting the physical separation for me was the first. That was the first big hurdle that I really experienced.
Yeah. I want to ask you, did you get angry?
Oh my God.
Did you throw things? I just want to know. I'm curious.
Like, the people who know me, I've always been one, who practices peace and collaboration and kindness. And yet I never considered myself an angry person. And then, life shows you what you have in you. I don't think I ever experienced such deep anger in my life. I mean, anger and fury and acid and things that would come out of my mouth, I didn't know I was capable of. And what's so interesting is that processing that, I'm so much less judgmental, because anger was something that I always kind of judged when it came at me, because I wasn't an angry person. So if I was arguing with someone, I was dealing with someone, I remember people's anger used to always get me and almost in a little bit of a judgmental way. And all of a sudden life threw me something and I became so angry. And having that experience, and processing it, I get it. Anger is just another way that we express our fear and we express our disappointment, and we have to allow our feelings. We have to allow the expression of what happens to us in life. But I never thought I was capable of saying such things, thinking such things, doing such things, and, and getting through it and processing it and forgiving myself. And also understanding everyone else. I mean, life throws us the unexpected, and sometimes it's so painful that we feel that hurt, that anger just came out. And so, yeah, I don't feel angry today,
Right.
but I had a lot of processing of anger, because
Yeah.
it was devastating. It was like your
Well,
best friend turning around
yeah.
and leaving you.
Yeah. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but what I'm thinking about, and I think the thing that got me, and I want to talk to you about this, is betrayal. It's the feeling of being betrayed. Did you feel betrayed?
I felt betrayed on the deepest level. And the thing
Yeah.
about betrayal is that we have to be careful about the things that happen to us in life,
Yeah.
because if we carry it with us, you have to process it, you have to feel it. But when we merge with it, when we merge with the betrayal, that becomes who we are, and we'll never trust another person
Yeah,
as long as
that's
we live it.
true.
That was, for me, one of the most significant things that happened. There was one moment where I realized that if I didn't trust that I would be okay no matter what, I was going to stay off the playing field of life. And that is, it's so important, because if betrayal becomes your theme, then who people are becomes more important than who you are. So as I look right now, I trust that I will be okay. So I'm less obsessed about the person I'm going to meet. Like, yes, when you're doing a business deal, you have to sign the best contract. When you meet someone, you have to use discernment. But at the end of the day, life is unexpected. But if you have this knowing within yourself that you can handle what comes your way, you'll always be okay. So what I've done is I processed that betrayal, and my self-trust has made me worry about it less. I'm less worried about who you are and more concerned about how I'll be in any given situation.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. Well, yeah, and it takes a while. I mean, and it hits
Oh
your
yeah.
ego too. I just want to say that, it kind of bruises your ego too, because, and I guess I feel I was similar to you in the sense that, I thought everything was great, and, I was doing my own thing, and I was really happy, and I had no idea. And it kind of is like, it just hits you right in the gut. You're like, really? Seriously? And it's kind of, it takes a while to get your, I guess, to get your confidence back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's someone you trusted. And, sometimes there's an age factor in there. Like for me, my ex-husband to be was with a woman who's 34 years old, and so, you look and you're like, wow, like, what does that mean about me? And it's so funny that that's another, again, defining moment, because if you
Yeah.
buy into the story that this was me, this was about me, this is because of me, this
Yeah,
is
it has
because of
nothing to do with you.
yeah, it's nothing.
Right.
And if you don't get to a point that you realize that, again, you leave the playing field. And then, like, I'm a middle-aged, washed up woman, and instead, going
Yeah.
through the process and realizing that my value hasn't changed. That's the thing about life. When outer experiences happen, we allow them to get so close to us that we start to see ourselves differently. So then it was another
Mhm.
process, that this experience, it was unpleasant, it was devastating, but it doesn't change my source, it doesn't change my value. But again, you got to go through a lot of muck to get to that point. But yeah,
It's true.
I understand it, but
Yeah.
when you get to that place, again, grace and dignity, you stand up straight and you say, hey, I can get out there again and try to live my best life possible.
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of quotes that you said in this book. This is a really good book, you guys. I mean, it was really wonderful that you told your story and put yourself out there. But she says, women are brilliant business people and emotional warriors, but we often lose our way because of beliefs that we hold on to about ourselves. And that's what you're talking about. We can't take somebody else, and I get this so totally, just because he changed how he wanted to do things didn't make you a bad person, didn't make anything wrong with you. And so we can't take that on. And I think that's a programming thing. I mean, from like our parents, like, you have to be married. And you even talk about this in the book. You have to, like, we grew up thinking, oh, well, as long as you're married and, that's how everything is. But it's not really like that. I mean, it's like however you want it to be, right? Talk about that, Allison.
Absolutely. I was brought up in a way that was, I was always into my career, but there was a stability in the marriage, and my life was formed that way. There was a lot of codependency. But again, as women, it's not just our marriage. It's like, we go into corporate America, and corporate America is really made more for men.
Mhm.
We're judged on our emotions. We don't make as much money. We graduate from college the same rate, but we don't hold the same positions. We don't get the same pay. So after a while, you look around and you say, there must be something wrong with me. Right? Because if you see your male counterparts more successful, if you see other people in successful marriages, you see all this thing, you start to blame yourself. And that's the conditioning. So like you
Mhm.
have all this conditioning in the world, and then your husband leaves you. And so it's like, at some point you have to see the structures that have been made in the world, the structures in corporate America, the structure of marriage, and you have to kind of escape it. But the only
Yeah.
way to escape it is your own inner world. And it's how you see yourself. Because when you value yourself, that you're okay, you're less afraid to live your best life. And again, I talk a lot about the book about uncertainty, because at the end of the day, it's really our fear of the unknown
It
that
is.
gets
It
and
is. It
and
is.
our fear of who he might be, and our fear of what could happen next. So I think for women, the fear of uncertainty is probably the most important thing to master in
Mhm.
business, in our personal relationships, and especially when life crumbles, how we get back up, and our love for the unknown is really what carries us through.
Yeah, it's actually a blessing. And I just want to say this. I left my husband because I knew he was cheating on me. Of course, he never admitted it, which he still doesn't admit to this day. He's a narcissist. Yeah. So it's really interesting. But I want to say this for the other, I left for myself. Um, and it didn't matter. It was for me, this is who I am. And I'm not going to put up with anybody treating me in that manner. And, it's hard. It was really, 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 really hard to do it. I mean, it took everything I had because, you love somebody, but people change. And I just want to talk about that really quick. People change. I mean, my husband wasn't the same person. And it sounds like you two grew apart. You were doing your thing. He was doing his thing, but you didn't kind of realize it. Is that right?
Believe it or not, no. We
Okay.
were, we were in, yeah, he changed for sure. And I
But
guess
you
I did.
didn't.
I, well, I changed too, but I think I was growing as an individual, and I thought we were best friends. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't said. Like, I would love to tell that story that we drifted apart. For me, this was a blind side. This was a world that I guess he was experiencing that I didn't know about. But I guess if now 3 years later, I can look at it that we are very different people, and he wasn't happy, and I have to make the best of it. I don't, a lot of people say the best is always happening. And I say, well,
Well,
either
yeah.
the
Was
best
it
is
a
always happening.
blessing? Wasn't it a blessing now that you look back? Because look who you are
I can't
today.
say that. I can say
No?
that what I can say is that I have to make the best of it. So in a
Okay.
way, like, whether the best is always happening, you have to make the best of it. And believe me, I've had a lot of blessings in my life since
Yeah.
he left, but I don't know. I guess life will show me. Life will
I
show
guess.
me.
I love it. All right, we got to go to commercial break, you guys. We're having a wonderful conversation here with Allison Carmen. Her book is A Year Without Men. It's a 12-point guide to inspire and empower women. This is Nancy Yearout, and we'll be right back. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Allison Carmen. Her book is A Year Without Men. And she was just telling me on the break, if it wouldn't have been for the book that you had written before this, which was The Gift of Maybe, you wouldn't have gotten through this as easily. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Well, before I wrote the gift of maybe, I always say I was addicted to certainty. And if I
I
didn't
was,
know what was going to happen next in my life, I
yeah,
projected things were going to be bad, or they weren't going to work out. And this idea of maybe really changed my life. It's this idea that the unknown is our best friend. And we're always looking at what's going to happen that's bad. We don't know it's going to be bad. And this idea of maybe reminds you that within the unknown, there are possibilities that you love. There are possibilities you can't imagine. It's the maybe. It's the hope. I call maybe as hope without attachment. And I remember 2 days after my husband told me he was leaving, I always keep the book by my bed. And I went into the bathroom and I was crying and I was devastated. I could barely see straight. And I started to read my book. And I'm on the 6th page, and it actually said, all my biggest fears. And one of my biggest fears was, would my husband always love me? And I don't even remember thinking
writing
that,
it.
feeling that, right? Like
Oh
how it
my
got there. I mean,
gosh.
I obviously put it in. And in that moment, I remember I was trembling, but the fact that it was in the book, I didn't feel it in my heart. I felt it in my head. I was like, okay, my life still has maybe. And I sat down and I wrote, what is my biggest fear? My biggest fear is my husband's going to leave me. And then I did my maybe statements. Well, then you ask yourself, Are you absolutely certain that fear is true? I didn't know he was going to leave me. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then I thought, well, if he does leave me, my life will be over. And I asked myself, are you absolutely certain that thought's true? You can't be sure of anything. That's the beauty of the unknown. It leaves you open to the worst, but also to the best. And I sat there and I did these maybe statements. Maybe everything will be okay. Maybe we'll work it out. Maybe marriage counseling will help. Maybe if he leaves, there'll be something left for me. And with that practice, it kind of just helped me, because again, uncertainty is the thing that crushes us, because our fear of the unknown stops us from taking that job, stops us from entering a new relationship, prevents us from healing. Because when you grab for certainty, you don't grab for your best life. And when you grab for certainty, the unknown knocks you down. And so this idea of maybe this practice every single day, I mean, I thought I wasn't going to make it from one day to the next, but every day it just kind of gave me a little more light and a little more hope, and maybe has been my saving grace. And for women, because our path is not known, because we don't have equality, we don't have equity, uncertainty is going to get us. Because if we can look at the unknown as our best friend, we're going to take chances, we're going to take risks, and we're also going to be able to heal. And so for me, always saying the unknown future is my best friend, it always helps me get through a hard time. Because it's true, life has maybe. And
I know. Well, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, God put that book out, got that book out, and that was a blessing. And that was something.
Absolutely.
Isn't it funny how it's all planned out? Because now you look back, I'm sure, and think, wow, I wrote that book, and look how it was comforting to you in your own situation. Did you become closer to God, or have you always been religious, or are you?
That's really interesting. I'm not religious, but I have a very strong, deep belief in God. But it's funny, you would sometimes, when bad things happen, people move away. Right. And for me, I moved closer. And what was really strange about the day I moved closer was one day I met my ex-husband to be in the bank, and we were signing documents. And we were done. He asked me for a hug. And he was already living with another woman. And I was so devastated that he would ask me for a hug. For me, it was like it was like he was seeing an old pal, right? And for me, it was 5 months out, and I was really struggling. And I left there in a rage. And he had just literally helped me out too. He had signed some bank documents. He had done things he didn't have to do. But I was so angry that he asked for a hug. And I was walking, I live in Manhattan, and I'm walking in the street, and I'm angry and I'm mad, and I fall. And I twist my ankle, and I'm bleeding, and I'm crying, and I am such a mess. And I saw Whole Foods was like 1 block away. So I'm limping to Whole Foods to get some arnica because I'm all bruised, and I'm crying, and I'm a mess.
And people helped you get up, by the way. I want to say that.
People in New York are so nice. They really are. It gets a bad rap. And all of a sudden I'm in Whole Foods, and I'm crying, and I'm literally shaking. And I look up, and in the middle of New York City, in the middle of Whole Foods, in the middle of the day, my cousin is standing there. Yeah. My cousin who I spent Thanksgiving with, my cousin who's one of my best buddies. She works 20 blocks away. She lives in Brooklyn. And there she was to give me a hug. And I know it sounds crazy, but why that would be the moment that I would connect deeper to God. But it was one of the most odd moments in my life that I had literally fallen, physically fallen, mentally fallen apart. And there was one of the most important, beautiful people in my life standing in the middle of Whole Foods hugging me. And it was something about that moment that always reminds me of, again, of grace and of God and of hope and of possibilities. So yes, that lifted me higher. I know it's a strange thing, because usually people have. No,
I think it's divine intervention. It was divine intervention is what that was.
Those moments I just kind of connected me. So yes, I am much more committed to my relationship with the divine and to God and to blessings and to grace and also to humanity. When your heart cracks and you open up, you connect with people in a different way. Like even when we just got on the show, when you said to me your personal story, I automatically connected with you on a very, very deep level, because we had an experience that we both understand how painful it is, yet we're both present in this moment to help another person to not only experience the pain, but heal from that pain.
Right. Well, and I look at my situation as a blessing, because I was psychic, always been psychic, but I didn't realize what an empath I was and how psychic I had become. I had done my show, and I know you do a show too. And the more people I had on my show and interviewed, and the more I connected with God, the more psychic I became. And so I've told this to my audience many times. I was sitting on the couch and I could see this woman with dark hair next to my husband because I had become that empathic, and it was crazy. And I said something to him, and the shock on his face, although he still wouldn't admit it, he called me psycho because I was psychic. Can you imagine cheating on your wife and then she tells you because she's psychic? I mean, it probably just blew his flipping mind, but it was a blessing because I realized my talents, my abilities, my gifts. And God was like, hey, get out of this bad situation and learn your gifts. And that's what you did. You got out of a bad situation. You became the CEO of this company. It has changed how you look at everything. You've empowered women. I mean, talk about that, really.
Well, that is the blessing part. I guess the
Yeah.
part I struggle with is that my commitment to family was so deep that,
Right.
that's the piece that I sometimes struggle with. But, as I sit here today, I am stronger than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never a chief financial officer before. Yes, I have a law degree and accounting degree, but like I've risen up in a way that
You say that so lightly. You say that so lightly. You have a law degree and a what?
An accounting degree and a
An
master's
accounting
of law.
degree. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like literally it like forced me to go into the world, in a different way, and to have, written this book and to be able to help women and to also to really start looking at women issues. And also my daughters have become very, very strong women from this. Again, pain does that from you. It breaks you, but at the same time, it helps you get to know who you are. And if you're willing to walk the path, you really find yourself in a much stronger place. So yes, I still have pain in my heart, but I am stronger. I'm more resilient. And honestly, I'm more open to life. Like I'm really willing to go out there at this point and just be me. And
just
that's
be who you are
goal.
and not care. You say, let's see, let go and let life in. Expect the unexpected. You talk about this Facebook status change. I got to bring this up because
well, that was divine. See, that
I want the audience to hear this. Tell the story.
When we talk about divinity and we talk about the divine and we talk about God,
yeah.
I was practically sitting in the same place that I was sitting when he told me he was leaving. And I'd written this book, and there were a couple of things, I was kind of wavering, are you're really going to write this book? Are you really going to finish it? And I was just finishing it, and I was kind of getting cold feet. And every couple of weeks I would go on Facebook, and I would check his Facebook page and his status. Literally I'm at the end of the book, and I am literally like, should I write it? Should I finish it? What should I do? Da, da, da. And I go on Facebook, and boom, he drops his married status on Facebook. So all of a sudden it was like announced to the world that we were no longer married. And it was like, he said it first, and literally I finished the book, and the rest is history. But it's funny, again, it was that moment I was wavering, and there he goes, and he dropped it. And then, okay, now the world knows he said it first. I am not attached, and he's with someone else. And so it inspired me to finish the book. I was always concerned about, the book has, it's personal, but at the same time, it's very, pro women, and it says a lot about my business experiences and how I perceive men in business, how I perceive women. So it was a big step forward. And so it was almost like he shut the door, even though the door was already shut. I think in life, sometimes we have to go back a couple of times and get punched in.
To go forward.
So it was just like, it's because, again, like, it's happening, but you just, you keep trying to go back, even in an emotional way or a spiritual way.
Yeah. And think, well, what if we would have done this differently or not? But it really had nothing to do with you at all.
Exactly.
Actually.
And so it kind of like sealed the deal for me. So the Facebook status was a sealing of the deal. And I went forward with the book, and I feel very blessed because the response for the book is that women are like, I didn't see myself. I didn't see why I was doubting myself. I didn't see, how the world made me see myself differently. I didn't realize there were things I can do to have more power in the world, to have more value in the world. So I'm so thankful for that moment, because without that moment, I don't know if I would have finished the book. So
all right.
Again, I've been very lucky and blessed.
We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, you guys, we're going to talk about how she's doing now and what's going on. So it's called A Year Without Men, a 12-point guide to inspire and empower women. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here with, it looks like a new kindred soul, Allison Carmen. Her book is A Year Without Men. Allison, I want to know why you called it A Year Without Men. Well, I know because I read it, but I want the audience to know.
Well, there are really two reasons. One is it actually was a year without men. Like I said, my husband and my biggest client from 25 years left the same week. And then all of a sudden, I find myself at an all-woman company. I had never worked with just women before. And it was such an incredible experience. Yes, I had my father and I have my brother, but literally I was surrounded by women. And especially at work and in business and in your home, you kind of, it's just different. I didn't feel like anybody was telling me what to do. I didn't feel like anybody was putting me down. And also in the work environment, that kind of tension, that patriarchal structure, it had all fallen away. And so it was what happens when that is gone and we get to know ourselves better. So the book doesn't, A Year Without Men, could it benefit a woman? It might not. The book doesn't say you need to be without a man to have this experience, but it just shows what happened when the men fell away and I saw my own power. But also I have to say that the title also just came to me. I became a Reiki master and I was out for lunch right after this group setting. And I actually heard something and it said A Year Without Men. And I actually wrote the title down. And I just went home, I wrote it down. I was like, I don't know what this is about. And I started writing it 2 months later. So the title came to me, but it also was because of the experience that I had. I literally had a year without men. I'm literally 3 years without men at this point.
Were you a Reiki master before, or did you do that after?
I did that. I think I might have done it right before he left, but then I continued to take classes, or maybe right after. I don't remember if it was before or after. But it really was a beautiful experience. And so that's how the title came about.
Yeah. And you say in here, believe in your own beauty. I like that because you guys, I just want to throw this out there. So our society, it's like, oh, if guys have a younger woman or whatever, they think that's all that, but it's really not, because my opinion, I'm just going to throw this out there. Women, or each person has value, and we have tended to, as a society, to look on the outside instead of the inside on the value. And all the things that you have accomplished in your life, an accounting degree, a legal degree, a Reiki master. I mean, my goodness, the heart that you have. I mean, it's just amazing. You're an author. I mean, look how fantastic you are. It has nothing to, and you're beautiful too, but I mean, it has nothing to do with, and this is where we need to get as a society, it has nothing to do with what we look like on the outside. These are just costumes. I always say that, it's the soul. It's the essence of the person. And what a great loss for him, and what a great value for somebody else that you could meet, because I feel like intuitively that you will meet somebody. I just want you to know that.
Well, maybe, because I wrote a book called Maybe. So
yeah, I do. I really feel like you're going to meet somebody who is on your level. And see, I want to say that too. And then I'll just let you, say whatever you would like to for the rest of the show. But, this is a blessing because, and this is what I see and I pick up, you'll meet somebody that's on your level. He wasn't even really on your level anymore energetically, even though, you wanted him to be. I just want to say this. I mean, look how far you've come, and look what a different person you are. Talk about what it's been like. I mean, because I can see that and I can feel that from you. So, I mean, don't you feel like empowered and a totally different person now?
Yeah, I totally feel like a different person. We don't realize that, especially as women, that because life gets so hard, because you want to be equal and you find that you're not, and sometimes we have a tendency to hide. And there was an element to me that hid behind my marriage, that yes, on the outside world it looked like, oh, I was consulting and I was coaching and I was writing, but when I didn't have to, sometimes I would go back and hide behind the comfort of not having to deal with certain things. So yes, like now, every day it's me. It's all me. It's me, and I have no choice. And I think that was the lesson, that how do you stay empowered all the time? And how do you
Mhm.
stay in the unknown? And how do you stay in this place that you value yourself? Like you said, the beauty piece is tricky. When your husband leaves you, you could really get into that whole low
Right.
places. I don't look this and that is that. But for me, it's like, beauty is, if you look in the Webster's dictionary, beauty is that which gives you pleasure. And so for me at this point, beauty is what's divine within me and what I find divine. And then how can I express it in the world to help others? So yes, I find that I am a totally different person. Am I a little scratched up and beat up? Yes. Yes. But at the same time, those things have blossomed into other things. And I think that's what people need to remember, that, bad things happen in life or difficult things happen,
Mhm.
but how we show up for them and what we do with them and who we become is really the experience of life and the experience of our soul and how we really experience the depth of life. I live deeper. I feel deeper, and I really do have more value for myself. There's, something, the biggest joke of them all, there was never anywhere to hide. It's like hiding from the sky.
Yeah, there was
Not
nowhere.
always,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like, and that's a game too. Like you think you're hiding, but you're not. Everything is always all revealed. So we
Right.
might as well allow ourselves to be exactly who we are and live our best lives.
I want to read this from your book, if you don't mind. I marked it and because I think it's really important. So I'm just going to read this. It's a little portion here. She says, when I was in my late 20s, I'd look around and see a group of women in their 60s walk down the block. And as I passed them, I thought, oh, these poor women don't have husbands, or how sad that their husbands couldn't be with them tonight. I'd see two girls on the street without a guy and would think, how sad they don't have dates tonight. I know it sounds crazy. The people that know me well always saw me as a liberated woman. After reading this book, you know better. But I was brought up to think that you need to have a relationship with a man to make life meaningful and happy. And
Yeah.
you don't.
You don't. You
I
don't.
love that you put this in here.
Yeah, I had to be totally honest. I don't want people to think anything other than the truth. And
Yeah.
and it's funny because I'm an advocate. I've been out there in the world advocating for so many things. And yet I did believe that deep down you need that. You
Well,
need
yeah,
that.
because our parents told us that. Marry a nice guy, make sure he has money, make sure he goes to church and all those good things like that. And you go for it. And then you get older and you think, well, wait a minute, I don't want that.
Yeah, no, I think that our relationship with ourselves is really the most important relationship. And from that point, life blossoms. And yeah,
Right.
so that was a big awakening for me that doesn't even come close to the meaning. Kindness, love, generosity, heart-based living, that's the meaning. And then what your path is. And then if you meet people along the way and you have beautiful relationships, then God bless. Wonderful, beautiful. But if your base is something other than you, then at some point it's going to crash and burn. Whether you're 80 or whether you're 60 or 40 or 30, it can't be that way to live a truly inspired life.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good advice. Hey, we got to get out of here today. It was such a pleasure. How do people get in touch with you? A Year Without Men. Can they get in touch with you, or do they just?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The books are available on all major bookstores and on Amazon. And my email is allison@allison.com and AllisonCarmen.com. I have a great website, AllisonCarmen.com, a great podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. You love to hear from people.
Tell us about your podcast. When is it? Tell us.
It's a great podcast. It's just 10 minutes long. And the purpose of the podcast, in 10 minutes, I try to help people alleviate stress or worry in their lives. And lately, a lot of it has been about the pandemic and uncertainty and, finding hope, because, despair is just the need for certainty. And maybe and hope is the way to go, because life will keep changing. So I just keep trying to inspire people to reduce the stress and stay hopeful and keep expanding their lives. And it's so cute because it's only 10 minutes. So it's a really cute podcast.
All right, cool. And I'll put that up on the notes, you guys. Thank you for coming on the show today. You've been such an inspiration. We'll have to have you come back for the gift of maybe.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much. You were so wonderful. And I enjoyed being here.
God bless. Hey, you guys, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. Everybody take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week, and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goals.